everybody? You're kicking it with the Homeboys and the Homeboys podcast, where we talk everything in the world of real estate investing. Whether you're just getting started or a seasoned vet, we're going to give you over 40 years of combined real estate experience to help you on your investing journey. Today, we've got a really exciting, knowledgeable guest. We are talking with Pete Reese about how to make money and build wealth through the power of real estate. His podcast, called the Turning Profit Podcast, is an amazing one where they highlight land investment, and him and his wife actually get along and do it together. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. So, Pete, how are you? We're excited to have you on the show.
I'm doing great. Well, thanks for having me, guys. I'm excited to be here.
We're excited to have you, and we talked a little bit before we went on the air, and Scotty, mentioned that we don't claim to be the land experts also. So we're excited to learn today from you, and we got to talk to you a little bit about the amazing part of the country that you're based out of, which is San Diego. And Scotty and I told you how jealous we are to be stuck here in Indianapolis talking to someone out in beautiful San Diego. But anyhow, why don't we just start off with you telling us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Well, I appreciate that great intro. And yes, I can't complain about the weather here in San Diego.
Oh, it's so nice.
Yeah, definitely. Especially this time of the year, really sets itself apart. But as far as real estate goes, I've been kind of in real estate since about 2002 when we started flipping homes. My wife and I, we would buy homes and we would fix them up and resell them, kind of flipping homes before it got real popular, I guess. It still was a little bit popular. There were some shows on TV, and that's kind of how we got hooked on it. But so we started doing that for a while, and that was going great until the market crashed in about 2007. And we decided kind of at that point that flipping homes was not the best thing because the buyers had all disappeared. So we luckily a couple of years before that, I had actually gotten my broker's license. And then I figured, well, I'll just transition into what's working right now. And what was working was bank-owned foreclosure. So I kind of put all my focus into listing those type of properties for the banks, being an REO listing broker around here. Did that for a number of years, and that kept me busy at a time when a lot of people in real estate were struggling. So I was thankful for that. Not a great business, in my opinion, but it was an interesting one and a lot of interesting stories from that. But I ended up working with, through that, I ended up getting connected with a lot of large investment companies that were buying properties that they could then flip or hold as rentals. But so I was, for a while there, I was just finding them deals, and that was kind of my focus. Got out of real estate kind of altogether for a number of years, working with my wife on a business about blogging and blogger training. So she had been had a blog for many years, and she had lots of people always asking her about how to do it. And
about blogging?
Blogging, yeah.
Wow.
Yep,
okay.
Travel blogging and lifestyle blogging. So we developed a whole business about training business around that, and that became really, really successful and had thousands and thousands of students. And with that as well, we started really getting into the travel blogging side of things. So as a family of 5, we were traveling the world about 150 days out of the year for almost 5 years straight.
150 days out of the year with your family?
Yeah, I looked your bio up on online, and it did say world traveler. So I'm seeing where this
that's
where all this comes in, and that is an understatement.
World travel is an understatement. Okay, all right, sorry, keep going.
We were really into the travel.
Yeah, wow.
And it was a great time period, and kind of COVID, when that happened, that kind of put the brakes on all the traveling.
Yeah.
And then at that point, I was like, well, I'm kind of feel like that chapter is I was getting kind of maybe a little bit burnout on that side of things. So I knew I wanted to get back into real estate and real estate investing. And I was just reading online about some different models and things that I could do. Stumbled into land flipping and started reading everything I could about it. I noticed people talking about, hey, I bought this property for $10,000 and I sold for $30,000. I only held it for 60 days. And I thought, well, that's pretty cool. I could, have like those triple your money type returns like that. So I bought a trading course and I kind of went all in on it and started, sending out mail, which is how you generate your leads in this business. and did our first deal in March of 2021. And then ended up 2021, did about 1.2 million and some change in revenue at about 50% gross profit margin.
Nice.
So on average, we're trying to double our money.
Yeah. Okay.
So so if we buy a property for 20,000, we're trying to net 40,000 after all is said and done. So
well, I have so many questions from your background, but I want to point out something first to anyone watching this. This entrepreneurial spirit that you're seeing here is someone who makes a new plan. He wasn't given anything. He comes up with these new plans each time and then executes them. And that's the spirit that we see in a lot of successful. We're very lucky that we get to interview folks and meet with people who have these, do some really neat things like you're doing now. But your background, I find even more fascinating. The fact that you kind of have started from scratch multiple times, and you go out and you make it happen, and you admit it. You didn't have all the answers on any of those times, and you went out and did it. So that's very fascinating. We can relate a little bit. I started in 1998, and him in 2001 too.
Yeah, we're the same time there.
Yeah,
Pete,
flipping.
Yeah,
and we got our lunch eaten, in the same crash you did, and found our way through it. But it's interesting that you've landed on the land right now, because I just watched a Steve Harvey clip that I found really interesting. He said that there's about 6 acres per human on the planet that of land. And he said, anyone that doesn't own land, I think to myself, I'll take your part. I'll take your 6 acres. I'll take your 6 acres. There's a lot of really smart people out there that are really starting to believe in land, not just the flipping it, but even the holding of it, which I know that's hard to get returns. You got to have some wealth to be able to do that. But nonetheless, I think this is a topic that's really interesting to a lot of folks, and they don't know how to turn this into a profit center, land. They think, okay, it's land. And you've found some ways to do that. So I definitely want to touch on some of those ways. Again, you talked about holding it and then flipping it. So you look for deals. Do you want to dive into that a little bit more on how you find them?
Yeah. So the whole process is, it's pretty simple in a way. We generate all of our business with direct mail, and we put a list together, and this is kind of a big general list, kind of a shotgun approach, really, we'll take a particular state and maybe a number of counties within that state, and we'll build a list based off of just kind of the acreage size and vacant land, and then we'll kind of filter out the obvious non-sellers, maybe like a utility or a railroad or something like that. And we'll send out actual offer letters to these people based off of average prices per acre in that particular area. Now, obviously, it's a pretty aggressive offer price, but that gets the phone ringing. And then, we kind of work out deals when people respond, and we look at the properties in detail and kind of figure out like, hey, this will work, or, we need to get it for this price in order to work. We go through an escrow and a title company and purchase everything that way. And we have a whole big due diligence process that we go through as well. And then we'll close on these properties with our own cash. And then we'll do some kind of minor value add stuff to them sometimes. Could be clearing some brush. It could be getting a survey done. Could be getting a perk test, something along those lines. And then we'll put them on the market right away and resell them. And we'll put them on the market at a price that's also pretty aggressive, meaning it's slightly below retail in order to get a quick sale.
So you don't, it sounds like your due diligence, a lot of it's done after the fact. You're doing perk tests to see if you can put in septics or whatever else the perk tests are for, and clearing them to maybe make them more attractive to developers, basically, it sounds like, right? So You're buying raw.
Well, yeah. Yeah, a lot of our end buyers, we're buying stuff that's pretty rural generally, so they're out of the towns or the cities. So a lot of the end buyers end up being, an individual looking to buy either a recreational property or a potential home site for them, or maybe, buying it thinking that maybe someday I'll build here, that type of thing. But
it's funny, Clint and I we've both got these searches set up all over the state of Indiana for, I want to shoot, I like to shoot, and I need a certain amount of acreage in order to shoot and not bother anybody. So we've got these searches set up, and he'd like a cabin at some point. And it's amazing to me how expensive something that has already kind of been researched and is to the point where you could build, and all of the unknowns are known. Someone's already done all of those soil things. That it's amazing how much value add that is to a piece of property. So that makes a lot of sense. Do you ever get into a situation where it doesn't work out, where you do those tests and the results aren't what you want, or do you go into this pretty eyes wide open?
Yeah, I mean, we try to. I mean, we look at soil maps and things like that, and generally, in a lot of the areas where we do a lot of business, we have a soil scientist that will say, "Hey, we'll send him the soil map and the parcel and everything. We'll say, "Hey, what do you think about this? You think we have a good shot of getting this perked?" And then they'll give their opinion, before we send them out there, before we close on the property. But a lot of times we try to buy it right, so even if it's just ends up being a recreational property, we'll still be able to sell it, and these are larger parcels in a way too. So sometimes,
what's your average
generally
size?
Most of the stuff now is, most of it's 10 acres or above now.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So, it's one of those things that, like, on a 10-acre parcel, there's a lot of places that you could kind of dig some holes and see if it would work. So even if it doesn't perk in one area, it doesn't mean that it's not going to perk in a different area. It's just, it's just not confirmed yet. So, but we try to buy them at a good enough price that we should be fine, even if it weren't the perk or something like that.
It's fascinating to me. I mean, it's fascinating. There's so many ways that you can find success in real estate. I mean, this is one that's like literally never even crossed my mind. This angle.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's unique enough that are there a lot of people getting into this? I mean, do you see a lot of other people getting into this? I've listened to a couple of your podcast episodes and stuff. I mean, are you scared about people rushing into this market, or
no?
I know there's a lot of land out there, but it seems like you've got a pretty neat little niche here. I don't know. It's very interesting to me.
Yeah, well, there are other land investors out there, and there's kind of a niche of people that do this, but I don't think it's anywhere near being kind of as competitive as, say, house flipping is. I mean, that's an ultra competitive kind of red ocean, as they call it. And I view the land flipping as more of the blue ocean side of things. Yeah. And anytime you're doing something that works, I mean, there's going to be other people that want to do it too, which is great. And I just don't have that mentality of like a scarcity type thing. I think there's enough business and enough potential deals to go around for anyone.
We believe that in every area of real estate. That's why we get on here and we share everything we do, and we hope that it helps people succeed. Because
you can speak for yourself. I'm a greedy old man. That
you're one of the most generous people I've ever known, and so that's far from true.
I appreciate that. But there are times where we've been big on markets like within our geographical area, like within Indiana. Yeah, I'm not even going to say the city, so I'm going to keep it close to
there you go. Don't be generous.
Yeah, don't be generous. But there are certain areas that people have used these areas as the punchline of real estate jokes, for 20 years, and now they're up and coming. I don't tell my competitors here locally, because there's 20 guys that are here locally that are well respected guys. I don't want them in those areas yet.
Yeah. But this requires liquid capital, though, basically, to do your business model. There's probably not a lot of traditional banking that would support this type of business, right?
Well, there's two ways to do it. You can do it with your own capital, like I've done, and I actually I'll go into the other way now, which is the fact that there's partners out there that will partner on deals, and basically what that means in this business is the partner will bring all the money, and then you split the deal. So, and I did this on a couple of like larger deals, and I'll kind of give one as an example. We bought a property last year. It was 656 acres. The property was $315,000. Really good deal. Really beautiful property, actually, in the Southeast. Mm-hmm. And so it was kind of a win-win situation, because I decided, since it's a bigger amount and everything, I'll just do it with a partner. The partner, they sent all the money to close the deal, and then I was kind of responsible for coordinating with the agent and the marketing side of things. And then after it sold, we split the profits. So he got 50%, I got 50%. So he made a great return on his money for, just putting his money into the deal for a while. And then I got a really good return, almost an infinite return, because I just had to bring the deal.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's funny. I feel like I spoke too soon about that. With real estate, there's always a way to find capital. That's one of the beautiful things about real estate. No matter what it is, capital can be had. And for people just getting into real estate who don't think that they can do it, they're wrong. They can. It just takes the hard work and the effort and the willingness to go out and search for partners or search for capital through different means, and it can be done. And that's something that we really wanted to motivate this next generation with is folks like you who just, they go do it. They make it happen, and they search the capital, or they search for the capital, and they find a way to make it happen. It sounds like you're not just sitting on $10 billion. You're trying to stick into land. No, you're making this stuff happen. You're partners.
And, you will grow faster if you've got your own capital and you just can accelerate and everything like that. But a lot of people starting this business, they're doing everything with the partner, and there's nothing wrong with that. You're just making 50% of the deal. You're just not making 100% of the deal. Right. But
yeah, I mean, you got a family of 5. You need to keep some of that money.
I know, I do.
So when you go to sell all of these properties, is it a local professional that you use to put in the MLS? Is that predominantly the sales approach?
Yeah. I mean, we really are big on trying to develop relationship with local land brokers. And that kind of makes all the difference for us. I know a lot of other real estate investors will do all the marketing side of things themselves, but I'm just a big believer in using the local professionals because they can help us on the purchase, the acquisition side, as far as our due diligence and potential resale price. They give us their second opinion. We give them the listing as soon as we close on it, and then they resell it for us. I mean, the good brokers, they've got a buyer list already. They've got they've got marketing systems in place, and they'll be able to achieve a higher sale price than I would anyhow if I were to put it in some sort of flat fee MLS or, put it on, Craigslist or something.
Right. Yeah.
Right. We've noticed with land development that we do when we need land, there's only a couple of brokers in the state that are real specialists at land when we need land. And it's amazing to me. They keep it in their pocket. They're the only ones who know about these deals. So you find those people for your locations and then you give it to them basically.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's brokers that we've done 50 deals with.
Oh, really? Do they help you find then after you get that relationship? Help find you? Or
they don't help us. They don't help us find the deals. I mean, we generate everything off market with our direct mail, but they're really very valuable when it comes to, giving us their second opinion on a property. And then obviously getting it sold as well.
So are you able to lean on them during the purchase process a little to see what their insights are then once you have those relationships?
Exactly. Yeah, that's part of our whole process. And, we kind of lay it out in the beginning, like when we try to make a new contact, we're like, hey, we need a little bit of your help on the acquisition side, your opinion on the property. And then as soon as we close on it, it's, we're giving you the listing. So it's kind of we want to make it worth their while. And we pay 10% to our broker partners, so we make sure that it's worth it for them to work with us.
Yeah.
So,
is any of it farmland that you're doing?
Sometimes. Yeah, it's harder to get a hold of farmland though because it always seems to fetch a premium in a lot of the areas that I'm dealing with.
Well, yeah, I grew up in southern Indiana, and I've got a lot of farmers, good friends of mine, and they're always talking about the price of farmland. It's a pretty hot commodity, and you're right. It does, fetch a premium. I know in southern Indiana, farmers are struggling to find, enough land, to be able to farm.
Yep.
So are you open to other partners? Are you money partners if people are watching? I know we've got a lot of clients who are always interested in investing, with someone. Are you open to syndications or anything like that?
I would definitely be open to it for some of the larger deals. All the smaller deals obviously are no problem to deal with myself, but some of the larger deals sometimes there is a need that would come up.
Yeah.
Properties like 200,000, 300,000, 400,000, somewhere in that range, where we're looking to double our money on those. And so I think there's an opportunity if investors had some funds sitting around. The good part for them is they actually get the deed in their name. They close on so that they're it's backed by and then we just have a marketing agreement where we split the profits.
No, that's a smart way to do it, actually. Then,
yeah,
it protects their money, but it's
exactly. I mean, I know if I was going to be sending a large chunk of change like that, I would want to make sure that the property was in my name. So
I know
a lot of the land investors don't do it that way, but that's the way I feel most comfortable.
I think it's smart the way you do that. I mean, it truly protects you too in a lot of ways because you're protecting them, which protects you. But I noticed Clint and I were on a speaking circuit for years before kind of COVID put a halt on it. We did a lot of speaking out on the West Coast. And towards the end, right before COVID hit, we started getting a lot of clients coming up to us asking us about land. And we hadn't had that before. So is this becoming more popular? Because I'm kind of disconnected from that client base. I'm not out there anymore on the speaking circuit. And it was just starting to happen where we were starting to get asked a lot about land. For 20 years, we were asked about multifamily. Everybody asked us about multifamily. But towards the end, people were starting to ask about land. Are you seeing a trend with that where people are starting to see the value in something like your business model?
I think it makes a lot of sense. And I do think that there is a little bit of the building momentum there. I think for a number of reasons. First of all, this business, we have 60-day average hold times. Now, the bigger properties tend to take longer, but on average, that's when we group it all together, it's 60 days is what we're holding these properties for.
I think it's amazing.
That's shocking.
I would have said
I'm
more.
shocked.
Yeah.
I would have thought years,
Yeah. I mean, so it's an active, cash flow generating business, completely different than, like the long-term holds in some way.
Yeah.
But so there's a lot of interest in this because it's kind of like home flipping in a way. It's generating that active income, So this is similar to that, but a lot easier than house flipping. I think there is people that are realizing that. And I think the other thing that's kind of in this environment that we're in right now, people are very interested in holding real assets rather than, maybe they got burned by crypto or maybe they lost a bunch in the stock market. And I'm not saying that those aren't real assets in some way, but it's tough to beat land when you're talking about just a real physical asset, which in an inflationary environment should actually go up over time, just holding the property.
You're preaching to the choir on this.
Yeah. So, obviously it's not income generating if you're just kind of holding it for a long term, kind of buying in the path of progress or something like that. But using this model I have, it's kind of the active cash flow generating type business. So, and there are some models that I think are starting to gain some momentum too, with kind of the long term, possibly income generating aspects of land. Especially with the renewable energy side of things. Like developing a solar farm or a wind farm or something along those lines.
We were just
approached. Really interesting things.
We have 11 acres behind a warehouse that we have, and we were approached by a solar company asking to put solar back there. We're going to build an apartment complex or maybe an RV storage back there. So we turned them down, but that's an interesting, to me, that's a very...
it's popped up everywhere here in Indiana.
It's popping up
solar
everywhere.
Farms.
Well, I mean, there's a big push to kind of change out the whole electrical grid in the United States by 2035 to renewable energy. So, I mean, that's just an amazing amount of infrastructure they're going to have to do if they're going to have to make that happen. It's going to be mostly solar or wind.
Yeah.
We'll
kind of segue into the current real estate market. We in our environment, we saw. We do a lot of single family real estate investment, and interest rates popping, 5%, made things a little bit different. It's not, it didn't just completely do a 180 or anything, but
it caused a pause and a slight cool down. That was it.
Yeah. How does that translate into land? Have you seen any change, say from, mid to late summer to now in the land market?
honestly, it hasn't been that much of a change in the markets that we're dealing with. I mean, slight cool down, possibly, but it's weird. Land, these residential, like rural type properties are somewhat correlated to single family market, but then on the other side, it's not as direct as you would think, because a lot of these buyers are cash anyhow, so they're not buying them with some sort of land financing. Who knows, they may be using a HELOC on their home or something to buy these properties, but it's not a direct loan on these properties. So
your clients are the wealth then? A lot of your clients end up being wealth who want a little play property? Is that? I
think it happens that way. I mean, I don't have a lot of direct contact with the actual end buyer because we're using brokers for all of them.
Right, of course.
To sell them, but I think that ends up being the case. And I think also some people maybe, some of these rural areas, they're buying a property where they're just going to wheel a mobile home out there or something like that, or put a manufactured home on it. So I think that happens a lot too. But for some reason, a lot of them end up being cash. So those, the land in a lot of these areas didn't run up as fast, and likely won't correct single family homes would as well. Plus, I think we've got that inflationary thing working for us on the land side of things too. But
we're big on these rural areas, the kinds of areas you're mentioning. So we have a lot of our single family homes even.
Plus, I'd like to wheel a double wide out in the middle of nowhere.
I was going to say that.
Escape from everybody.
I would too. I'd like a double wide and a gun safe, and that's all I need. I'm set. I can hide my gold and silver out there, and I don't care what happens.
I'd love it. My wife and kids, I don't think that they'd go for it.
Your wife would not go for it.
She would not go for it.
But we believe in these areas that you're focused on. It's kind of our secret niche. He didn't want to say a couple of the places where we're so focused on, but we have a lot of properties that are an hour and a half outside of major metropolitan areas, and our tenants in those properties stay forever. And the returns are amazing on these properties, and you can get good. They're just really, it's an interesting little niche. So in a way, we're already kind of dabbling in a similar market as you. You're in the land part. We're more in single families in these areas, but we're big believers in it. We've seen a real run up in demand for living in those areas, especially after COVID, where people can live anywhere and they don't have to be near the major metropolitan because they can zoom into work. And so I think that's an interesting niche you're in with a lot of growth potential.
Well, it makes sense. Like, we're here in Fishers, Indiana, and Fishers is a really popular suburb of Indianapolis, and we're in a very high traffic area. You're not going to go out here. There's some land across the street over there, I think for sale for $2 million. That it's going to be a developer that's going to come in and
2 acres for $2 million.
And I can't imagine whoever owns land like that is not going to be willing to sell it. I mean, they're selling it at full boat. I mean, they're selling it at full retail price, which means there's probably not much of a market, in it for guys like us or guys like you. So being out in the rural areas, it makes sense.
Yeah. He's mailing letters to Kevin's uncle's Bob, his cousin-in-law, and saying, hey, that 12 acres that is overgrown, I'd like it. And then he goes in with a bush hog, makes it pretty, tests the soil, and calls a local realtor and says, throw this baby on the market, and he makes money.
That's right.
I mean, it's a brilliant concept. I love the business model. It's really neat.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, in a lot of these areas, like this one in particular, it was a little bit of the order was a little off on these. I told my local broker, I'm like, hey, we're closing on this property on Thursday, and he's like, okay, great. So he sends me over the listing agreement. One thing, it got delayed by a couple of days, and on Friday he emails me. He's like, "Hey, I got an offer for you already." I'm like, "Actually, we didn't close on this yet."
Yeah, man,
like,
love it. Yeah,
I should have communicated that got delayed. So anyhow, we closed today. But yeah, so there's that's it was a good property. They bought it for 58 and sold it for 99, and it didn't even really go on the market. So
well, we love it, and we appreciate you coming on today. We don't want to keep you forever. So.
I want to ask about the podcast real quick.
Okay, yeah,
your Turning Profit podcast, because I always find it interesting whenever you've got a husband and wife working together and they're all smiles all the time. Me and my wife, she's my soulmate, my life partner, but I tell you what, I couldn't imagine her and I on a podcast together. So tell us a little bit about the Turning Profit podcast.
Yeah, well, we just launched it at the beginning of this year. I think the 7th or something like that. So we're really in its infancy. We've been planning it for a while, but
I think
finally
it's awesome.
got off the ground.
I think it's great.
Yeah.
I think it's great.
I like the
thank
clips you've done on TikTok from it. I think the clips are great. I mean,
Thank you.
I got a kick of running through those. My attention span's pretty short, so that's more my speed.
Yeah,
you know? But your TikTok content's great too.
Hopefully, get people interested in those cool sound bites, and maybe they'll watch the whole thing.
Yeah,
So,
we know personally you're on Instagram, TikTok. I've seen you on both of those. YouTube, yeah. YouTube,
Yeah.
and then Apple Podcasts, Spotify, that kind of thing.
All those. Yeah,
we highly suggest it. We enjoy it. And
well, thank you. I'm loving it, and it's a great new journey. Like when we do something, I want to do it right. So that was why it took so long for us to get it actually going. But our idea is to talk a lot about land flipping, and also highlight some other areas of real estate investment. I mean, land flipping is not the only way to make money in real estate, but so we try to bring in some really smart people to talk about the other stuff.
Well, you have an experience. You're kind of a renaissance man of real estate. You've got a lot of experience in other areas, so you should. Talk about that.
I feel like I know a lot about a lot of different areas, but I'm not an expert in all of them.
You know enough to be dangerous.
Yeah, enough to be dangerous. That's a good way to put it.
Well, speaking of bringing really smart people on, I noticed where you brought your daughter on.
Yes.
one of your shows. That had to have been pretty cool.
Oh, that was fun. Yeah. I've got a 22 and a 20-year-old daughter, and also got a 13-year-old daughter, but they both took a little bit of an interest in what we were doing with the land flipping stuff, and they had $8,000 saved up, and this was a year and a half ago at this point. And I'm like, hey, why don't I just throw you some of the smaller deals that are kind of extra ones? And so, long story short, they took that 8,000 and they've parlayed it into I think 84,000 at this point.
Holy cow!
Yeah, just doing I think 5 or 6 land deals.
So someone wanting to get into real estate of some sort, but with a very small budget, this is something that they should pay attention to. They should listen to your podcast.
What a great lesson!
And for your
daughters,
kids.
and that is incredible. I love that.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah.
We're both in houses full of estrogen. Also,
We've got all girls.
Daughters. I've got 2 daughters.
All girls.
Got 3 daughters.
That's hilarious.
All it is. And I threaten them all the time that I'm going to leave them this company when I pass.
Oh,
they're scared to death of all the work.
You don't want to do that. No, you don't want to do that.
But we could talk all day. I'm fascinated by what you do. I hope our listeners go check you out, because I think they're going to pick up a lot of things, not just on land, but on life experiences. He's living life right. He's bringing his family into what he does. He's passionate about what he does. He gets this stuff. He passes on great financial literacy. So pay attention to what he's doing. It may not be a good fit for you, but I guarantee you will pick up some really cool pointers that you can apply to lots of different areas in real estate. And I want to finish this with 3 questions. So real simple answers, but what's the best real estate decision you ever made?
I'd have to say right now, getting into land flipping.
That's an easy one.
I love it. So, yeah. I wish I would have done it sooner, but oh well.
Hey, you're living right.
You live and you learn,
But you're living right. If your answer to what's the best decision ever made is to do what you're doing, you're doing right. So, all right. What real estate decisions do you regret?
I regret not going all in on buying real estate when the market crashed. I got out of all the real estate at the time I should have been getting all in. So
that is such a hard thing to do, to time right. Emotion is so powerful, and I don't know anyone that did do it.
I mean, it's so hard, especially we were talking about a pullback that we've never seen in our careers before. I'm very thankful that I went through it. I'm sure you guys would probably say the same thing, because it taught us a lot. But yeah, I look back on that and like, man, why didn't I pull the truck back and just do everything I possibly could? But we help a lot of clients build portfolios of real estate, and we look at their portfolios now. That we've helped them build since 2010. We got heavy into buying for our clients and holding, and it's fascinating to look at the what they own now, what little they owe. The tenants have practically paid off.
I'm sure
their
those
houses.
clients love you guys.
Yeah,
they do.
I mean,
they do.
It's really neat to see. But the last question then is, what real estate advice do you have for the next generation?
Well, if you're going to be, as far as a real estate investor goes, if you're going to get in the real estate investment game in some way, I would pick one particular niche and go all in on it and try not to get, the shiny object syndrome where you're kind of seeing what everyone else is doing and kind of looking at all these things and thinking that would be cool and kind of dabbling. It's so much better if you just focus, pick a lane and just focus. And I guess once you get everything on autopilot and you get a great team kind of doing everything, then maybe you can venture out into some of those other areas.
I think that's great advice. I see so many people, put so many different irons in the fire within real estate. They're wholesaling properties, they're flipping, I'm going to start managing properties myself. I'm doing all of these things, and they do everything at a C- level. And if they just would focus on one thing, I think that advice is so powerful.
I'm thinking of one person I know in particular who's incredibly intelligent, and if he stayed focused, he could blow the rest of us out of the water, or whatever he chose to do.
He's in everything.
But instead, he's in everything, and he's terrible.
Yeah.
he just fails at everything he does. But that's great advice. And again, we appreciate you coming on.
Tell us where we can find you.
Oh, yes.
So our listeners, where we can find you.
Best place would be to go to turningprofit.com. That's kind of our central hub where you can then find our, links to our YouTube channel and Instagram and all that kind of stuff. But on there, I also do a monthly income report, which breaks down everything about our land flipping business. So it's the revenue we took in, the gross profit, every single deal we did that month, like what we bought it for, what we sold it for, what we learned, how much profit we made, how many days we held it for, everything like that. So try to be as insightful as possible and transparent as possible. And so that way, if you have any interest in the land flipping business, at least you could see what kind of deals are being done and maybe what's possible. So I do that every month. So I think that's interesting content. But I'd love to have you check out our podcast as well. But all the links are on that website.
Well, Scott is going to be busy for the next 3 evenings now because he's a data geek, and now he's going to be on there checking us out.
Just to warn you, I'll be on there.
So he's
good. All right. I need the visitors.
He's booked up for the rest of the week. People, don't reach out to him. But, I encourage our listeners to reach out and check out Pete's podcast and all of this, information on land. Scotty and I learned a lot from you today. And
he's pulling back the curtain on his website on everything. I don't know anyone else who does that. I literally don't know anyone in this business that pulls the curtain all the way back and shows you it all. So that's fascinating to me. Like you said, I'll be there for the next 3 days. You should too. Check it out.
Well, we thank you again, Pete. Thanks so much for coming on. Guys. This was a lot of fun. So that's our show. If you've made it this far, we'd really appreciate it if you'd leave us a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. It really helps us to grow our podcast and reach as many people as we can to help them understand the world of real estate investing. You can also find some short form content on TikTok. Our TikTok is at the Homeboys Podcast, where you can learn even more about the power of real estate. Till next time, homies, happy investing.